Dawson Show, the place for soulful, spirited women to grow, to dream, to create, to shine their own way in life and in business every single day.
Gorgeous humans, welcome back to the podcast. Today we're going to have a very juicy conversation. We're going to be talking about narcissistic personality disorder and what it can feel like when you're in a connection, relationship, friendship, work relationship with somebody who has NPD, and what you need to do in order to protect yourself and care for yourself during that time. I really wanted to talk about this because I actually discovered I was experiencing narcissistic abuse when I heard some friends sharing about their experience publicly. And it was hugely useful just to have that little bit of information swirling around in my brain. So when I got myself into a really challenging situation, I'm like, is this that? So we wanted to talk about this, offer it up in case you ever go through one of these experiences. I hope and pray that you don't, but that if you do, you're like, oh, I know what this might be. I'm joined today by my biz bestie, Tamara Protasso. Hey, Tam, thanks for joining me.
Hi, thank you. I was going to say it's a pleasure to be here, but it's
Once
a hard topic. It's a hard topic.
It is. But we like hard topics.
That's what we've been. It is a pleasure to be here. So, I'll go there with you. It's okay. We will delve in.
Let's talk about heart stuff. So we're going to talk about what it feels like to be in relationship with somebody with narcissistic personality disorder. What is NPD? Can it be treated? Resources that can help you, and how to protect yourself as well. And Tam and I will both share our experiences, but in a very generalized way. We're not going to talk about the specifics at all, or who it's about, but we just want to share our experiences of discovering that we're experiencing narcissistic abuse. So for me, this came out about 10 years ago for me, when I was in connection with somebody, and one, it was a really fascinating, intriguing connection, and I felt like I got a lot out of it and I really enjoyed it. And also I would find myself sobbing on the bottom of my shower floor, like the floor of my shower, just wondering what the hell, because all of a sudden my self-confidence was plummeting. I was wondering if it's me, if I was actually deeply flawed in a way that I didn't understand. I didn't understand why there was so much drama and so much pain wrapped in a connection. And for me, the vast majority of relationships in my life, well, all relationships in my life really are very gentle and peaceful and respectful, and they just don't have the characteristics of having any drama at all. And so getting into a situation where I was like, oh, this feels like very intense and very dramatic. I don't understand what this is. And then you start thinking it's you. And then you start thinking like, I need to somehow fix how deeply flawed I am. And it was only just in this moment of clarity that I was praying while sobbing on the floor, and I was praying to my angels and I said, please, please tell me what this is, because I don't understand what it is. And they gave me this very clear direction, which I think is hilarious now. And they said, Google selfish asshole. And I was like, wow, that is really intense. And also that was not the terms that I would have used to describe this particular person at all, because I thought they were incredibly benevolent and very wise and spiritual, and I couldn't understand. But they told me very specifically what to do. I Googled selfish asshole. It came up with a checklist for narcissistic personality disorder. I thought, absolutely no, that's not what this is, but whatever, I'll read it anyway, just so that in case I ever find one, I'll check it out. And I read through this list, my mouth dropped, because it absolutely nailed exactly this person's behavior, and right down to the very scripts of what words they would say. And it also really clearly highlighted the person who is experiencing narcissistic abuse, what they feel in that relationship as well. And so very quickly, it was just like a veil dropped from my eyes, and I thought, oh, wow, this is somebody that I can't treat as a normal person. And because the relationship doesn't work like that at all. And I ended up making the decision to end that relationship completely, that connection. And it also was really useful for me because as soon as I saw what narcissistic personality disorder was, I could see other relationships in my past, including, high school best friend, that had these characteristics of making me really second guess myself, putting the other person on a pedestal, that they were incredible, they were like otherworldly, they were, they were so deeply charismatic that they were just like on this other level, and I felt so deeply flawed in comparison to them. Where for me, the experience has never been like that. In other relationships, it's always so beautiful and equal, and we can see each other's power. So I'm really grateful I went through that experience. It took time to heal from it, but I feel like it better equipped me to see the red flags in an experience. It's also helped me when I've gotten into situations with, say, for example, a coach or whatever that's exhibiting these traits. I'm like, oh, okay, I know, I can see what's happening here. I can just adopt my usual method and just protect myself. And also it means that when other people come to me and say, oh God, I'm going through this, I'm like, that has the characteristics of narcissistic abuse. Mm-hmm. So Tam, did you want to share your experience of discovering narcissism?
Yeah. So again, it took quite a long time to figure out what was going on. So yes, I have been in fairly close relationship with a narcissist before, and I've also watched sort of someone be in a close relationship with a narcissist as well. So just looking at that whole system from the outside as well, which is difficult in a different way as well, because some of the ways that I've discovered, how it felt for me being in that relationship, I felt this, my baseline level of stress was really high. And that was something that people had always said to me, oh my gosh, you're so highly strung, you're so stressed, just manage your stress better. And so firstly, undiagnosed ADHD, like stress level through the roof. Secondly, this relationship that I was in was also stressing me out. So the baseline stress level I had was so high, like it affected me physically. I got like an autoimmune condition from that. I was always second guessing myself and every decision I made. And there was a lot of obligation and it was very isolating. So I found that, other people also knew this person but they didn't know how I was being treated behind the scenes. So outwardly, so charming, so charismatic, as you said, so like, everyone's favorite person. And behind the scenes, just chipping away at my confidence. I was never good enough. The things I did were never good enough. It was always wrong in some way. There was always, and any time that I stood up and said, no, that's not how I'm going to be treated, massive blow up, massive collapse. How could I speak that way to this person? So very, very mercurial, kind of never know what you're going to get type thing, very destabilizing. So, and watching that from the outside, I mentioned I'd been watching someone I'm close to have a relationship with a narcissist, and being able to see that from the outside, once I knew what had happened to me, being able to see it from the outside and just go, oh, that was a whole other perspective. And I was like, okay, that helped me understand a bit more why it was so isolating and why it felt so destabilizing. And, it's easy to say, oh, I gave my power away. It's not like that was a decision. That just happened gradually over time, so gradually that, when you can't point to any one thing and say, oh, I lost myself there. That's where I lost my power. That's where I lost who I was and lost sight of what was important to me and how people should treat me, really hard stuff.
And I think too, there's a whole bunch of techniques that are used by people with narcissistic personality disorder in order to kind of attach onto people and for people to become very attached to them. So this is like the quintessential love bombing, where they pour a whole amount of attention on you and praise you, make you feel very, very special, and give you so much attention. And then they, after a period of time that you've been attached, then they will remove their attention and give it to you intermittently. So you're not actually sure what you're going to receive on a daily basis. And so you're scrambling to get back to being, if you're in a marriage, it would be like, get back into feeling like they're princess, or, their soulmate, or their one true one, or, the good friend, or the best friend, the good daughter, whatever it is. Like, you're always scrambling. And it also sets off that part of our brain that really gets addicted to intermittent reward as well.
Oof, yeah.
Yikes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We know that this is what gambling and social media like really harnesses. When you are not sure what kind of response you're going to get, you actually get hooked on it. It's very addictive. And there can also be some really beautiful parts of your connection with the narcissist, and so beautiful that you don't want to give it up, and you feel like, oh God, who would I even be if I gave up this connection? And you like receiving their special attention, and you feel like on some levels that they are very special. So they can be incredibly charismatic. They can say they're very, very spiritual. They can say they're a genius. They can appear incredibly benevolent. They can say that they are loved by everyone and everyone adores them. And they kind of build up this mystique about who they are. And they manage to get a lot of people to believe that. Very, very good at convincing people to believe in that. In fact, there's different subtypes of narcissistic personality disorder, and one of them is called the benevolent narcissist. And that is somebody who just appears like an earth angel, a guru, or whatever, and appears incredibly altruistic, but in close contact, it's not the case at all. So what you can often experience in relationship is you feel like there is a lot of drama. You feel like you've kind of been sucked into a cyclone, and you feel like you're kind of existing to serve a need for them, and that it's really important for you to serve that need for them, and giving them lots of attention, giving them lots of encouragement, giving them lots and lots of energy. Relationships is different from others in that you might have other very peaceful relationships, and this one just feels like a tornado. Over time, your self-confidence and your self-image plummets away, and you wonder if it's you. And Tam, you said something really, you said that's intentional. Like, there's a reason why it feels like you. So do you want to explain why you start wondering if it's you?
That's actually a really interesting question, because I don't remember saying that, but I will go into it anyway. It's fine.
It was 5 minutes ago. Why would you remember?
Yeah. How could I, why would I remember
wise. That? It came out.
It came out. I think you can wonder if it is actually you, because of the way the relationship sort of functions. My experience was, as I said, the narcissistic abuse happened when no one else was around. So, I would be going along doing what I thought needed to be done to maintain that relationship, but the ground was always shifting. So, I'd be like, oh, great. Okay, so everything's in place. I've done this. And hot tip, if you are thinking so hard about maintaining a relationship that you're like, okay, I've done everything right. I've called at the right times. I've checked in at the right times. Before I go to see this person, here's my list of things to talk about, the safe topics of this. Like, yes, neurodivergent people can plan their interactions in this way, but it's next level with a narcissist, because if you get it wrong, it's not just feeling awkward that happens. It is either the explosion or the endless picking at you. Mm-hmm. So I guess for me, I really felt that the most when I decided to try and talk to some of the other people who knew this person and say, I'm really being treated in this manner. I'm having such a hard time. I don't know which way's up anymore. And then every person I spoke to was like, oh my God, they're great. They're so nice. I love them so much. You're so lucky to be so close to them and have this relationship. I'd love to have this person in my life in the way that you do. And that was really isolating. So it's a really isolating position to be in that relationship with that person, because that's the kicker. That's the isolation is what drives it. And I guess watching it from the outside, again, I said I've watched it happen, and that was really hard too, because I could see then the mechanisms that were being employed, and I could recognize them because I'd just seen them in what I'd come out of, and I was just like, oh, that person's being isolated. And it's quite hard to kind of break into that, because the narcissist just doesn't let you. That's the thing. Like, outside people get branded as, oh, they wouldn't know how special this is. They don't know what we've got. And it, that again makes the person feel very special, and, blind to other things, like someone on the outside going, I'm a little worried about you. And even if in the back of their mind they're like, oh my God, yeah, actually I'm a bit worried about me too, the thrall of that relationship and feeling that special can actually make them go, no, everything's fine. I'm really happy. And also, how dare you suggest that this is bad? So, yeah. I don't know if that went into the advice.
That helped. No, I think that works really beautifully.
What did I say 5 minutes ago?
Something amazing, something very wise. Always. I've even had a narcissistic person say in connection with me, like, you're the only one that I actually have problems with. I don't have problems with anybody else in my life.
It's such a classic. It is such a classic.
I just don't understand why we have conflict in our relationship, because I don't have it with anybody else.
Yeah,
so there's something here.
Mine sort of said, oh yeah, I get the feeling you've always been a troubled person. Is the one that I used to sort of get. And I was just like, wow, mate. And so much was I in that relationship that I was like, maybe it is all my fault. Maybe I am trouble. Maybe there is something wrong with me in a fundamental way.
Yes.
That means this is I am the cause of this problem.
Yeah.
And yeah, as you said, my other relationships have been fine.
And it's spoiler alert, like, of course, Tam and I have both gone to therapy, are we the person with narcissistic personality disorder? Both like gone, can we please find out and get assessed to see if we've got NAS? Because that is so how far up you go. And also because Tam and I are both willing to look at issues and we want to fix issues. And you get to a point where you're like, oh, is this a me issue? Is it a them issue? And it's so important, of course, to take self-accountability in relationships. But in narcissistic abuse, it's you're the only one that has any issues and you are the cause for all conflict in the relationship.
That's right. I remember I actually got myself checked twice, 10 years apart.
Of course you did, babe, of course.
Because, I was like, no, I've got a new therapist. Maybe I'll ask them too. Because, because even though you get checked by a qualified professional, the abuse is so deep-seated and so deeply rooted in the psyche that there is always then a question of maybe they got it wrong. Maybe they read the scale wrong. So for me, it's really been overcoming that initial worry. It's taken 2 tests 10 years apart to actually trust and go, oh, okay, no, that's 2 separately qualified people who don't know each other, who have only met me in a therapeutic relationship. And, and I have, been extremely vulnerable in these therapy situations. And, it's taken 2 assessments for me to believe the result. Ugh.
And meanwhile, you also have like a large amount of relationships that are healthy and positive and completely equal. Like, you know, we've known each other now for 11 years.
Yeah.
And like, it just wouldn't even cross my mind that that's because it's like our relationship is just equanimity, you know, it's, we give, we take, we talk, we share, this is where we're at. And it's so, it's, and I don't feel fucked up in it. So there's a nice sign.
No, and neither do I. Amazing.
We don't
Incredible.
second guess ourselves or our identities, our confidence, anything. So, wow, what a treat. We also want to make sure that people know as well that if you are neurodivergent, if you're autistic, if you have ADHD, if you like are empathetic or sensitive, you are actually a prime candidate for experiencing narcissistic abuse. And there's a few reasons for that. Firstly, we always assume the best of people. We always assume that people say who they are, and we believe them, because why would people lie? It's not in our vocabulary or understanding of the world for people to actually lie. So if somebody says to me, I'm deeply like spiritual in all of these ways, and I'll be like, oh, okay, because why else would you say that if it wasn't completely true? Also because they signal out like that people who are narcissists are looking for people who have a lot of love to give, who have a lot of energy to give. If you're a shiny, bright light, they love that because they get to take some of that energy for themselves. So they're looking for bright lights specifically, and it's not your fault at all. That we just want you to be aware that that is what they're drawn to. It's just like moths to a flame. Mm. We also want to acknowledge that having autism, which I am diagnosed with, can look like narcissistic personality disorder traits, but the difference is in the internal experience and also in terms of the abuse experience. Like, we don't actually tend to inflict that kind of abuse on other people. Some people may experience a harder time regulating their nervous system. Some people may have pathological demand avoidance, which means that they kind of their lives are a little bit more tightly regimed in order to manage their nervous system. But there's some traits that are similar, but that it's not the same thing, and it's really important to acknowledge that.
And it's really easy to look that up. Like, you know, you just search up ASD versus NPD traits, and a really handy dandy sort of list comes up next to it. And, you know, it is in that internal experience. And I also think that because ASD, particularly in non-straight white males, so anybody who doesn't fit that picture, that's not actually been how they assess for ASD or ADHD or a whole host of other things in the past. So, you know, having, for example, undiagnosed and untreated ASD for a really, really long time can end up really looking like and behaving like narcissistic personality disorder. And I think that's a really unspoken about and difficult thing to navigate. And, you know, it really does come down to that internal experience, which, you know, is why when we asked our psychologists, our therapists to check us for NPD, you know, I remember the first one I asked was just like, she just barked this laugh. She was like, bah! So, you know, we can do a check, but I've been working with you for a couple of years and I can just say straight out, absolutely not. Because in general, narcissists, don't ask to be assessed.
That's right.
Like, they don't actually come and say, I'm worried I might be a narcissist. Like, that's... So firstly, no. Secondly, let's do a checklist to put your mind at ease. Amazingly, the first time, as I said before, didn't actually allay my fears. Possibly because I was still in a relationship with the narcissist at that point. So and that moves us nicely onto what the hell do you do if you discover you are in a relationship with a narcissist? And I think that's
it's a good one. Well, first I want to say as well, like, what NPD is from
Better
more of
define
a clinical experience. So NPD is Narcissistic Personality Disorder. It is under the cluster of personality disorders. there's a number of them. We are not professionals, obviously. All we wanted to share is from our personal experience and just give a broad brushstroke overview so that you can go down those rabbit holes if it's something that calls to you. In terms of a clinical diagnosis, what they're usually looking for is somebody with grandiose self-importance that is not able to have real empathy and respect for other people. And for me, from my perspective of how I see it, is that somebody with narcissistic personality disorder is somebody who has deep traumas or kind of deep cracks in the foundation of their very identity. And so they have an urgent and excruciating need to receive attention and recognition and feel more important than others above all else, because otherwise they feel deeply, deeply unwell. It's sort of like having just a God hole that is so enormous that they are using other people and attention to try and fill that God hole. And so on that level, like, I don't regard somebody with narcissistic personality disorder as being evil. Like, I don't look at it in that way. It's just like everybody else. It's a subsect of mental health issues. It is a subsect that can cause pain to others, and it's something that we need to, one, of course, you can have compassion for it, but the most important thing of all is how to take care of yourself if you are in relationship with someone, because it can cause enormous amounts of trauma to your own identity and your own mental wellness. We also want to say as well that we don't have the experience of being married to one. And I think if you are married to one, living in the same household as somebody with narcissistic personality disorder, it is a whole other level in which to navigate, and you would need to be getting as much support for yourself as you can to try and navigate that.
Absolutely. And that's definitely, like, if it wasn't already obvious, that is definitely where we would say call in the professionals, get help, get psychological help for yourself, for both of you, for anybody else in the house. Like, it's, it is a really hard situation to navigate. And we are not professionals in any way. And, I know in the work I do, I tend to say, look, if we're delving into subjects that are really difficult, just make sure you've got the support you need, whether that's psychologically, emotionally, mentally, physically, just on every single level, energetically, like a whole lot of support is needed in that situation, because it can border on the dangerous or be dangerous. So it needs to be taken with the gravity that it requires.
Yeah. So can narcissistic personality disorder be treated? From what I understand from the literature and research, it doesn't appear something that can be fully fixed. It is something that can be managed or not managed. There are people with NPD who are in therapy, who are doing their work to try and create less harm in their relationships. And for me, in my experiences with people with narcissistic personality disorder, there's a very obvious difference between when they're managing it themselves and trying very, very hard not to leak over to others, and when that's completely unmanaged. And it can be unmanaged, where it can become unmanaged when they are experiencing stress. They'll kind of fall back on their old techniques of trying to control other people in order to make themselves feel better. And it can also be if they feel like they've got a kind of get out of jail free card. So, for example, if somebody has a health diagnosis, often their narcissistic personality disorder can just go through the roof and become even worse than before, because they feel like they have a card and they can do whatever they like without any repercussions. So that can be very tricky. In terms of managing, if you're in a relationship with somebody with narcissistic personality disorder, whether it's at work, whether it's in a friendship, whether it's in a family situation, whether it's marriage, your emphasis cannot be on fixing them or healing them. Instead, your sole focus has to be around protecting yourself and creating space and mechanisms and support in order for you to do that. So therapy, both me and Tam are woo-woo hippies, so intuitive healing has been really useful for us as well. Looking at going no contact or low contact with somebody is a really helpful way to manage that situation. Of course, there can be a huge amount of obligation and guilt around that, especially when they are a family member or whatever. But it is a very, very useful mechanism. It's the mechanism that I have used most of all is no contact. And then in one situation, I have a conditional low contact situation where if they're managing it, yes, I can be in contact with them. They are very, very aware of what those guidelines are that in the ways that they can behave with me. And then when they're not able to manage that it is a no contact situation. And also I have done that with all of the love in my heart as well. I love that person who has narcissistic personality disorder. I am so grateful for the things that they have given me, and like in terms of their love and energy and the things that they have given me. And my job, I see it as in their spirit loves me so much and I love them. And as part of that love, their spirit would never want to see me harmed, and would never allow anybody else to treat me the way in which this person treats me when they are unmanaged. And so
Sorry, I'll let you finish that, but I've got a question in a moment.
Oh, yeah. And so as an act of love for them and for me, I am the adult in the relationship and I say, this is where it's healthy and this is where we can and this is where we can't. And I'm very clear with them about that. And I have told them all of this information.
Yeah, amazing. And, as someone who has both done the no contact and the low contact or the very boundaried contact, I know from my experience, even that low contact or heavily, strongly boundaried contact has taken up a lot of energy and, then the contrast with going no contact and having all that energy freed up and having some health issues resolved and having some, all of that. I'm wondering how you feel about that contrast between the no contact and the low contact or very boundaried contact that you have, and how you, sort of go, oh yeah, actually it does.
That's very true.
Yeah, it does take energy.
It's a huge mental load and energetic load for it. So it is absolutely more healing and freedom to be no contact. And also I am happy to dip in and out of no contact and low contact at this point. It's just dependent on where they are in their management of it. Because we were able to create a relationship for maybe 5 years that didn't have abuse involved. And so I'm like, they are capable of that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they're going to be capable of it again. And so it's more, for me, I'm at the low contact level where it's about every 6 months or 12 months. It's a 2-minute call to say, how are you? And then the answer for that informs what needs to happen. And I don't spend any more time thinking about it from there. It's like, well, do I feel up to it? No? Okay, that's okay. I'm absolutely okay to not do anything with that.
And I think it, and that's completely understandable as well. And I think it really sort of speaks to also what you said earlier about the way to deal with it is to become like so sovereign in tending to yourself and your needs and going, this person is, I'm assuming we're all talking about adults here. This person is another adult. They can stand on their own 2 feet without me. Or if they can't, then that's something that is their responsibility to look into.
Yes.
I'm responsible for me and for marshalling my energy and for, doing what is right for me. And I think what is really hard in there is that can feel like you're becoming narcissistic when you're doing that. But it is an essential part of protecting yourself from the narcissist. So it quite often, like the word that got thrown at me a lot was that I was selfish. So for me, putting myself and my needs first felt like I was stepping into the role that the narcissist told me I was.
Yes.
So it was such a tricky situation to navigate, and it felt so sticky. And but if I put myself first, then I am being selfish, and they're right. And if they're right about that, then they're right about everything else they've said. Because my neurodivergent brain has no nuance in that way. It's either black or white.
Yes.
Yes. They must be right about everything. So yeah, it's a fairly tricky situation to navigate, and that took a lot of therapy. To get to the point where I'm like, I deserve to be the main character in my life.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that I'm selfish. It means that I then have enough to share with other people, which is the exact opposite of selfish.
I also have had frank conversation with that person and said, I get what you want from me. Like, I get that you want to be my child. I get that you want me to be the mother that just gives everything to you. And the fact of the matter is I am not your mother, and that was not what I was born on this earth to do. And I need to look after myself. I need to look after my husband. I need to look after my own children. And if being in relationship with you affects my mental health so much that I can't do that, I will cut you off just in an instant, because my children take priority over you. And really letting them hear that. And so I want to be clear as well, this person is not somebody who is dangerous. I know.
Yes, 100%.
I know that this person, that it's on one level, it's actually safe for me to be very frank with them. And I'm grateful for that. It doesn't change the fact that it can still be a very flawed, flimsy relationship. And so I have to be the adult in that relationship for it to function. And at a certain point, it may go to complete no contact as well. And I will be at peace with that. I think as well, there's extra fear, obligation, and guilt around it when it is a close family relationship, particularly if it's a parent, because you feel like you have an obligation in order to be the good daughter, and that you should. And also because there is a whole lot of cultural shame around it as well. Like, people are like, oh, I don't know, I could never go without talking to my parent. It's like, oh, well, good the fuck on you, love. Like, I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy for you that is your experience. Like,
that's it. And, watching that kind of thing happen, it's like, but, how misunderstood that relationship is. And it also shows what a narcissist does, because that person who has said that, and oh my gosh, but they're your parent, I know that a friend of mine was really shocked when people were like, oh my God, but that's your dad. Like, how can you not talk to him anymore? And she was like, but he was so awful to me. And I'm like, yeah, that's how narcissists function. The public persona is incredibly charismatic and incredibly this amazing person who is lauded by all. And you're left thinking, oh, there must really, really be something wrong with me. When there isn't, you're just in that unfortunate position. But also, being very careful and making sure that you are always safe. And, people tend to mistake that to mean physically safe only. And yes, physical safety is incredibly important, particularly in Australia, where the stats of, domestic violence are just so horrific. But safety is more than just physical safety as well. Like, physical safety paramount, but emotional, psychological, mental safety is so important too, and, needs to be included in that equation as well.
Other things that you can do in order to protect yourself is reading and learning about narcissistic personality disorder. There's a whole bunch of checklists online that you can read, and they can be really useful. I remember I went through a stint of, I think I listened to like 10 or 20 audiobooks about it because I went full down that rabbit hole to try and understand it. So these ones are older now, and so there's probably a lot more out there. You had a good recommendation, however, for a book.
I did. It was recommended to me by a friend who had to go no contact with her parents, in particular her mum, and sort of I was chatting with her about that experience, and I was like, wow, how have you navigated that? And she actually said, oh, there is this book. And so I wrote it down, and it's called Will I Ever Be Good Enough? Healing the Daughters of Narcissistic Mothers. And it is by Karyl McBride, PhD. So Karyl is spelt Karyl. I'm pretty sure it'll go in the notes notes of this podcast if you want to look it up. But it's on everywhere. It's for sale everywhere. And it's also got an audio book, which is helpful for some of us because we like being read stories or good books that help us. Ooh.
Yes.
Oh, also, I've just seen there's a new book that she's written as well called Will the Drama Ever End?
Ooh.
Untangling and Healing from the Harmful Effects of Parental Narcissism. So,
whoa. Okay.
Yep.
Live the dream. Yep. Live the dream.
That's
There's
right.
a lot of wonderful resources out there, and learning all you can be really useful, and it helps to make you more immune as well to narcissistic abuse in the future. See the red flags sooner and protect yourself and manage yourself in those situations. Of course, if you are if this has been really triggering to you, make sure that you're reaching out to the appropriate places like Lifeline. If you're needing support on terms of domestic violence, looking out to those kinds of organisations as well. There's a fantastic website in Australia called Ask Izzy, IZZY, which provides support on a whole bunch of other levels. But we just wanted to offer this up as our experience of people who've gone through narcissistic abuse and trying to in some way give you a level of immunity or a level of awareness that you may not have had before. Thanks so much, Tam, for joining me on this one, and let's talk again soon.